Good evening and welcome to Real Times, a showcase for local independent films and filmmakers on CCPTV. CCPTV is the educational channel of the Community College of Philadelphia. I'm Alex Bove, Assistant Professor of English at CCP. And tonight we have a Real Times double feature, a documentary film called Philly Boy about MC Breeze, a Philadelphia hip-hop icon, and then The Story of Breakout, a not-so-documentary film about a fictional Philly hip-hop icon. And we have the director of those films and real-life Philadelphia film icon, Michael Dennis. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks, Alex. I'm so excited to be here to be able to share this stuff with you.
We want to talk about your filmography, and we want to talk about the films we're showing tonight, but I'd like to start with the how did you get into film, the who, the where, the how, the why?
I just like movies. I grew up watching a lot of television, and I decided at a certain point that that's what I wanted to do, that I could make better stuff than what I was seeing. And, you know, time, it just happened that's such that just as I was graduating Central High School, She's Gotta Have It came out. And that definitely steered me in the direction of NYU. So I got into NYU.
So did you make films in high school then?
No. Not really. I worked in a video store. I worked at a video library on Germantown Avenue forever. You know, for like 20 years I was there. Even when I was not officially working the counter, I would be buying tapes from used video stores from around the country or all over the place. So I was the guy responsible for bringing in you know, the obscure Ballad in Blue starring Ray Charles. And I mean, we developed a pretty good black film section as a result of my effort, so. And
you said you applied for NYU?
Yeah, I applied two places. I applied at NYU and I applied to Temple University. Those are the only two applications I did, and I'm sorry, Mr. Cosby, I chose NYU. And I think it was one of the best decisions because I got to live in New York and learn about this thing that I love. And
then you ended up at AFI?
Eventually, yeah. It was a struggle. Like after graduating from NYU, I did like a small 10-minute film, and it wasn't enough to get agents interested or even win festivals. It was too vanilla, I think. But it was good enough to get one guy's attention, Joseph Stefano, who's a Philadelphia native, who actually got nominated for an Oscar for the screenplay to Psycho, and he was doing a movie here in Philly called Two Bits, and my friend Ray was working on that movie, and he introduced me to Mr. Stefano, who wrote me this glowing recommendation, and I think that's responsible for getting me into AFI. And did 2 years there, and I think everything that I know came from grad school. I mean, I got to pursue my love as a filmmaker and really learn how to do things independently, guerrilla style at NYU. But to understand like time is money and how to structure things, the protocol of a set, and just feel real confident about my voice and how to tell a story came from AFI.
And you studied directing, editing?
I have a master's in film directing. Yeah, I was a directing fellow there.
Okay. You never had any desire to be in front of the camera?
Not at all. No.
In studying your history, you grew up in Philadelphia. So you go to New York, you go to Los Angeles, the two of the film sort of meccas, but then you came back home. Yeah.
Well, the thought was at the time I was broke again in L.A. And the objective then was to write a screenplay. So you don't need to be in New York and LA and pay those kind of rents in order to have a pencil and a pen or a pencil and a pad and write a screenplay. So I came back, and then about a year later I got on Beloved. And I worked as a production assistant on Beloved. And that's where I really saw okay, everything that I learned at film school was correct. You know, Jonathan Demme is basically doing it the same way that I was taught. So I decided that at a certain point that I didn't need to go back. I could stay here in Philadelphia and make films. Oh, you know what that caused me to make that decision was seeing Sixth Sense. My friend Ray worked on that movie. And he invited me to a very early screening of that film before it even came out, before it became a phenomenon. And I was blown away by it then, just by, like, wow, here's a Hollywood production, but it's shot here in Philadelphia. And every location was exquisite. There were actors that I'd never seen before, and I said, wow, this is such fertile ground for filmmaking. You know, if I invest in this instead of trying to figure out how I'm going to get back into the rat race, you know, I could make films in Philly for a living that have a whole different texture and tone than anything that anybody else is doing. And hopefully, you know, today you'll see what I'm talking about.
Now we're getting up to sort of somewhere around maybe 1999, 1998, 99. This is around when Real Black was founded, but you were working on Philly Boy at the same time?
Or 98, 99, I was working at KYW as an editor for news. Like, I was working at a video store and I got a job. You know, I needed more money, and one of the people that came in the store all the time happened to work at KYW, and I knew a little bit about editing, and I managed to pass whatever their editing test was and get into the editing union, and then I was editing, you know, like 20 VOs per shift. A VO is like the little 30 seconds that Yuki Washington talks over while he's talking about Herman Cain. So I would get all the footage, cut it together so that it fit the script, and then they would play it. And the cool thing about learning that way is that you learn that it doesn't take a year to make a movie. You know, that a movie can sometimes you only have 5 minutes to put something together. You know, so I got to see my work on being broadcast across the city, you know, across the Delaware Valley, almost as soon as it was finished, and I could get my response, like, did I do a good job, immediately, figure out what I did wrong immediately, and you'd be told if you didn't do it right.
Yeah, I imagine.
You know, so that made me a better editor as a result, getting to see my work done, and that's certainly that experience certainly led to doing the TV show Real Black TV.
Okay, and so it started off as a TV show?
No, my experiences working at KYW gave me the confidence to start my own TV show.
Okay.
I said, well, I know how to do this. Let me just do it for myself as opposed to for somebody else. I know how to cut a segment. You know, let me go out and interview folks. Let me find hosts. You know, let's go to the show and shoot the concert. You know, and all that stuff started happening while I was at KYW. Like, Black Lily was happening, so either on my days off or right after work or before work, we'd go over to the 5 spot with me and my friend Daryl, and we'd just shoot 2 angles all night, and then I'd go home, and by that point I had my own equipment. I could then take, like, from the whole night, take one song, cut it together, have it ready to give to the Jazzy Fat Nasties the next week or Lady Alma the next week, and say, hey, look, I'm a fan. You know, here's your performance from last week. You know, and that's how the friendship started to build around that. Okay.
And when did you start the film series?
Film series started as a result of the 2 movies that we're going to see today.
Okay.
That was the December of 2002. So is when Real Black Presents started. After the 2 movies came out, I was given the opportunity to program a showcase at the Prince Music Theater, and we've been doing that ever since. Now we've expanded to 3 different venues, so we're doing at least 2 movie screenings a month, Philly premieres or bringing back obscurities and rarities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, well, so I guess we're right around the time now to start talking about Philly Boy.
Sure.
So why MC Breeze's story? Why did you want to tell this particular story?
Originally, I wanted to do a story about the Black Lily, which was where we were filming every week, every Tuesday night. But they had a deal at the time with MTV, and they weren't really allowing cameras in at the time that I wanted to do it. So I went back. I'd done like a mixtape of old school Philly rap, just out of love to see if there was an audience still for that kind of music. And it had done pretty well in the mixtape circuit. So I then got to the idea that I wanted to do something like Ken Burns Jazz, but while people were still walking and talking and able to talk about their music, as opposed to having some, you know, Wynton Marsalis tell you about Dizzy Gillespie, actually have the person tell their own story.
Right.
So originally we were going to do a whole series of movies like Philly Boy with different artists and compile the entire history of old school Philly rap from the inception of it with Schoolie D, let's say, to about the time 3 Times Dope. I don't know if you know these acts. Came up the Hilltop Hustlers and basically the Baird murder, the Aretha Baird murder would be the capper of that arc. So we got as far as Philly Boy, which is the story of MC Breeze. The reason we chose MC Breeze to be the first topic was because he was the only one out of all the old school Philly rap artists that had his own record label. So vis-a-vis, he controlled the rights to his music still.
Okay.
So we knew that
you could use all the music.
It would be less trouble than making a whole film and then having to go to Jive Records and saying, hey, you know, give us the rights. You know, that would have made it cost prohibitive right off the bat. So, you know, it took a little while to get Breeze's attention, but once he committed, he was all in, and it was a lot of fun to make the movie. You know, and a big challenge, you know, to have the responsibility of telling someone's life story.
The challenge of making the film is that there are at least, I counted 3 or 4 different interviews with Breeze himself.
Right.
And they were at different times as well. Yeah,
well, the key to making a good documentary is access to your subject.
Right.
So that was, the cool thing was once Breeze did make the commitment to be in the film, we pretty much had him. I think it was maybe a 2-week schedule of shooting. And there was a lot of get to know you happening during it. So he got a little frustrated at the time because I would ask him the same questions over and over, but in different settings.
Right.
You know, and he'd be like, I already told you that. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't tell me it in this lighting setup. You know, because I knew because it was going to be a talking heads type situation, I didn't want you to see the exact same sit-down interview for what turned out to be an hour-long film. You know, so that was part of mixing it up and keeping it moving, was to have him in different locations.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was actually thinking that's really interesting because you obviously asked the same questions to the other guests, and I mean, but then I could imagine he'd get a little frustrated with
a little bit. I mean, but a lot of it was getting to know him, and then sometimes as the relationship developed, he'd be more open with the answer. So you know, maybe he gives us a short answer the first time I ask the question, and then he elaborates. You know, and for me, it's all about having enough material to be in the editing room to tell the story. Well,
one of the major points of the film is the controversy over discombobulator boobulator.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking one of your earliest films was about Chris Rock, and there was controversy around him, which he talked about, and then of course MC Breeze talks about the controversy. So are you just a magnet for controversy?
No, I don't know about that. I mean, for those who, I guess we should explain, like MC Breeze is, you know, if you have 3 rappers at the earliest days of Philly hip-hop, they would be MC Breeze, or you'd go Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince, Schoolie D, and then MC Breeze. As Schoolie says in the movie, he's the link in the chain. He's the bridge between the sort of the gangster rap, really street sort of attitude, and the more middle-class, suburban attitude that Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince popularized. And the ironic thing is they all grew up in roughly the same area of West Philadelphia. So, you know, for those who can remember, Discombobulator, Boobulator was a very controversial record. It was banned from radio. I think he was the first artist to have a rap artist to have a record banned from radio, and you'll understand why by the end of the film. Yeah.
We've had filmmakers on the show who had controversial material that they'd written themselves, but as I was saying, you know, you've sort of interviewed controversial people, but you have that objectivity of the documentarian.
Yeah, you know, I was just a fan. I was just a MC Breeze fan. I wanted more people to know about him, and I'm a filmmaker, so why not use the medium to share what I know. That's basically the key to everything that I do. Is like, I like something, I want to share it. You know, so I like this movie, let's set up a screening. You know, I like this artist, let's put him on TV. You know, and you know, sometimes my tastes prove to be very esoteric. You know, as in like Blowfly. You know, and then sometimes it turns out to be ahead of the course, you know, and then sometimes it's right on time, you know. So I don't think the Breeze movie has lost any luster in the nine and a half years since we've made it. You know, I think it's still, the audience that's seen it appreciates it and appreciates the effort, you know, that went into it. I mean, you know, we could have easily done Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and I might not be sitting here talking to you. My career might be in a whole nother situation, you know, but part of my responsibility as a filmmaker is to find stories worth telling. So I always, and being from Philly, I always pick the underdog artists, you know, so Jazzy Fat Nasties, you know, way below the radar, but artists that I really respect and appreciate, and I just want to share with other people, use my talents to give them shine. And the same thing with the Chris Rock piece. You know, at the time we made it, you know, I just have an honest belief that the film can be transformative for the artist, because you know, you have an opportunity now. The artist now, after seeing somebody else make a painting of them, you know, can regain focus about what it is that they want to do, and it's really interesting just for people that knew Breeze before the film and know Breeze after the film and after his daughter was born. It's like night and day as far as his personality. You know, I think a big weight was lifted off of his shoulders as a result of Philly Boy.
Well, you said something earlier about being from Philly and fighting for the underdog, and I was thinking about that because that's another theme in some ways in the film. It ain't New York, so there's this sort of the New York hip-hop, L.A. hip-hop, Philadelphia hip-hop.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm always going to rap for my city, you know. And that was the funny thing when we took Philly Boy to the New York hip hop festival. It was at the first hip hop festival, H2O festival in Queens, I think it was at the time, or the Bronx actually. It was across from Yankee Stadium, and I was excited. I'd be like, hey, you know, I want to tell this story about old school Philly hip hop, and everybody in New York was like, what? Philly had a rap scene? It's like, yeah, you kidding me? You know. And then I'd start rattling off names, and, you know, the biggest name would be Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And people really, it doesn't register to people that he's from Philly as much as it's ingrained in people's subconscious. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, people still have this weird thing where they don't recognize that a lot of the early days of hip-hop was born out of Philly. So it's part of the responsibility of getting this movie seen as much as possible.
Now, is that also part of your mission with things like REELBLAK, getting Philadelphia film a little bit more?
Well, not necessarily Philly, black film specifically, African-American film. Quality African-American film is what REELBLAK is about. There's so much stuff, I mean, there's so many demands on our time that I think you do need some sort of arbiter of taste to say, like, you know, if you have an hour, go see this, or if you can go support this, you'll appreciate it, you know. And I think that in this day and age, you know, things are bouncing around so much faster. There's audience and there's marketing. There's very little room left for criticism. So I think it's okay to be critical as long as you say, okay, we appreciate the fact that this is popular, but did you know about this alternative? So that's what REELBLAK tries to do, is provide alternatives to the stuff that you're being forced to appreciate through the mainstream methods of marketing film.
Well, we could transition maybe from Philly Boy to the story of Breakout.
Story of Breakout. I know this interview is all over the place, guys. I mean, we're talking about 10 years of stuff
it's hard
that I've been doing, jammed into like a half hour.
Yeah, that's true.
But the story of Breakout is a direct result. It's sort of the parody of Philly Boy. Breeze actually sprung from Breeze. Breeze said a line once when all these rappers were coming around, like 50 Cent, who had been shot and were selling millions of records. You know, Breeze had a line. He said, you know, those guys got shot. You know, but it's just, you know, Breeze had the line. It's in the movie. He said, Breakout. He says, you know, meanwhile you have this rapper talking about being shot. At the same time, around the corner, there's another guy talking about how he missed.
Yeah.
You know, so from that line came the story of Breakout, which is sort of took all the ideas that had come through in doing the Bring the Beat Back project, which was the whole history of old school rap. Took a lot of the anecdotes and truths and just put like a comedic spin on it. And then at the time we were, John Canada Terrell, who's a friend now, he kept approaching me at parties. Anytime there's a mixer, please put me in something, put me in a movie, Mike, put me in a movie.
Right.
So I wrote this movie specifically with John Canada Terrell in mind.
Okay.
Who, again, here's the degree of separation. She's got to have it, which was the reason for me being in film school. So I wanted to write a part that I knew John could work with, and we did that in a weekend. We just were driving around in my car all weekend shooting this crazy stuff. And it turned into a movie. It got into a bunch of festivals. I think it won a festival, if I'm not mistaken. Got more than a B.
Got more than a B.
On that one.
Exactly.
But, well, that's an inside joke. But anyway.
No, well, I was thinking about the fact that you have now this fictional film, this mockumentary, but you had Schoolie D, you had Funk Wizard Snow, you had some.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe I should put the trailer for Bring the Beat Back up just so people can see it. If you go to YouTube and type in Bring the Beat Back Real Black, it'll come up. But we got as far as shooting a trailer. We shot a lot of interviews with a lot of old school rappers. Including Cash Money and Schoolie D and Lady B. And so when time came to do the mockumentary, they were all game to be in it. And it's 90% scripted, maybe 10% ad lib, but it's all from my imagination. And it was just a lot of fun. It was just like sometimes you got to create stuff just to get a load off your shoulders. And it just became really evident that it was going to be a long time before we were going to be able to tell the whole story of old school rap, but I did want to sort of express myself, and that's the result. Story of Breakout.
Do you have any other plans to write comedy again?
Yeah, we do. I'll put it on tape just because I've been putting it on tape for a while. But there's a comedy. Hopefully, we'll be able to shoot in 2012. Shoot it finally, called Tupac is Alive, which is about a guy who imagines that his best friend's goldfish is Tupac reincarnated, and it's also like an inside industry thing. And there's a part in it for John, there's a part in it for Breeze, and it should be a lot of fun when we finally figure out how to do it. But hopefully in 2012 we'll be doing it.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
What else do you have on the horizon?
On the horizon, 2012, definitely we'll be putting out Last Night at the Five Spot, which is a concert film with all the Black Lily artists that we filmed at the Five Spot before it burned down. And that's just been like some legal wranglings to get that out there. But I'm sure we'll have it on the festival circuit by the end of this year, or 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of footage. And the cool thing about that movie is everybody knows Floetry, everybody knows everybody knows Floetry, everybody knows Jasmine Sullivan, everybody knows about Jazzy Fat Nasties and Lady Alma and Black Lily. And they've made tons of TV appearances and stuff and toured, but no one's really gotten a chance to see footage of them performing their hits at the place where they nurtured their talent. So and the hope is that when people see the film, they'll be inspired to sort of create their own subcultures. Like, because literally these artists were creating, like, as far as when you went to the Black Lily, you were as close as you and I are to the artist.
Yeah.
And it's a completely unique experience in seeing Floetry on The Tonight Show. or John Legend on a DVD.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for being with us. It's about the time when we're going to show your films, so I ask my guests to introduce the films, and we have two, so would you mind just saying a few words to introduce Philly Boy?
Philly Boy is the story of MC Breeze, a.k.a. Joey B. Ellis, as you'll soon see, and we did it almost 10 years ago, so, but I think it holds up. I hope you appreciate it. If you don't know, now you know. And you can Google MC Breeze, Joey B. Ellis, send him a message, let him know that you saw this, and I'm sure he'll appreciate it as much as I do. So thanks for watching.
And so would you mind also saying a few words to introduce us to the second film, The Story of Breakout?
Well, Story of Breakout, that was a fun one to make, and the connection there, since I hadn't mentioned it before, is that Breeze does all the music in the film. And it's definitely inspired by all the old school Philly rappers that we met along the way in the process of making Philly Boy. And hopefully you'll laugh. You know, writing the script for me, the challenge was to invest you in the jokes and then bring about some serious commentary towards the end. And, you know, it's a little, you know, probably PG-13, so if you're a little younger, you might want to, I warned you. But it's a good film, and I really appreciate the opportunity, Alex, for letting us share this again.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, Mike. And I hope you enjoy our double feature.